How's it going, folks? Pyrinknight here, aka Chris. It's that time again for one of our fundraiser weekends where we stream all weekend and raise money for FMF and AID Global Association. I have FMF or Familial Mediterranean Fever, and so this is a cause that is very personal to me. We're going to spend all weekend having fun with our friends. But the purpose of this video is to kind of raise some awareness about someone who is living with a condition, aka me. I was born with it. It is a rare disease, and our friend Stormy is here to ask me some questions about living with this condition or the technical side of things. I don't know. The questions are unbeknownst to me at this time, so we're going to see how it goes. But again, we're raising money for kids so that they can get therapy sessions to be able to help cope with this condition and connect with kids that also have the same conditions that they do, so they can relate and be able to live day to day a lot easier. And also on top of that, with everything going on in the world right now, there are patients that have rare conditions that FMF and AID Global have supported in the past that are in Ukraine. And so anything past what we need to help with those therapy sessions, we're going to try and see what we can do to help kids in Ukraine as well with everything going on. But for now, check out the link in the description below to donate. There's also a QR code right there. Again, it's Rare Disease Day on February 28th. That's Monday, February 28th, and we're here today to learn a little bit about one of those rare diseases, familial Mediterranean fever, something I live with. So Stormy, without further ado, thank you again for being here, and take it away.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me into your space. I have a double question for you.
Sure.
What is it like to live with this disease? And do you have an issue or a problem with it being called a disease?
So let me start with the second part of your question first. I wouldn't say it's a problem, more of, to me, a misrepresentation, mislabeling. To me, a disease would be something that you can track, something that you catch, something that's possibly curable, but not something you're born with. I feel like I have more of a condition. It's a mutation of my DNA. I like to joke in the nerd space that we're in that I am a mutant and that my power is inflammation. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But to the first part of your question, it's frustrating. It's a condition that basically has controlled my life for a long time. Not so much as it used to, but it still does. You're always looking over your shoulder, kind of, when you're trying to have a good day. And, I'm not going to lie, it seems sometimes like there are more bad days than good days, and it could be a 50-50 split. I'd have to really think about that one. But, the fact that I can't think that there's more good days than bad days, kind of tells you a story there. But it's very frustrating because it's a condition that can just hit you at any time because your body essentially has a mind of its own. Familial Mediterranean fever is a condition where I am missing the protein in my DNA that controls inflammation in the body. So imagine waking up every day and not knowing how your body is going to react to anything that you deal with that day, whether it's good, bad, happy, sad, anything that causes stress to the body in any way, good or bad, can affect me and cause a flare. So it's frustrating. I've heard a doctor say that living with auto-inflammatory conditions or diseases, as they call them, and familial Mediterranean fever is like living with cancer but not dying from it.
How did that make you feel when you heard that?
Not. It's funny. It's not. It's kind of something I felt already.
Mhm.
And so it was maybe a little relieving to hear a doctor say it, but also at the same time, it was oh, of course, of all the things that you could compare it to, you're going to compare it to that, and that's,
Mhm.
sometimes you wish that you would just get that instead, that you would get cancer instead, and just that it would end sometimes. And that's how it's felt in the past. Not so much anymore. Things have definitely gotten better for the better, good for the better. And then I've had a lot of good days in the past couple of years, but I've had a lot of dark days of my life.
Understandable. What age did you find out about your condition?
I was 3 years old. I'm adopted. I was
Mhm.
adopted when I was like 3 or 4 months old, and when I was about 2 years old, these flares started to manifest. Abdominal pain, fever were the main symptoms. There's a whole anything inflammation related is a symptom.
Mhm.
I've had cataracts because of familial Mediterranean fever, but that's another story. But we were my father was State Department. He worked for the U.S. State Department. He was a U.S. diplomat, and we were stationed in Saudi Arabia. I was 3 years old, and a U.S. Navy doctor actually diagnosed me when I was 3 years old. And just we were lucky enough that there was a doctor at the embassy in Saudi that was an expert in tropical, as they called them then,
Mhm.
tropical diseases. Is
Mhm.
and that's a thing that back then it was amazing that someone diagnosed this the way they did, because there was no genetic testing really for it. The first genetic test wasn't done until 1998. I was one of the first to get it, and it proved that I have the condition in Israel. I had to go to Israel to do it. And a funny story about that is when I was a kid, though, 3, 4, 5 years old, living in Saudi Arabia, I was always told we were going to Germany,
Mhm.
but really we were going to Israel. So, because they didn't want a 5-year-old kid running around
Yeah.
babbling that they're going to Israel when you're living in Saudi Arabia. So, yeah. And I didn't find that out till I was much older that I was lied to. So,
Did you ever feel, after you found out, did you ever feel different, being around your own peers?
oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I have memories from kindergarten of kids going out to play in recess and me being uh, I was just laying in the playroom or the classroom on in a blanket on the floor with a bucket, a bowl or bucket next to me, or trash can, because they thought I was possibly going to throw up because I had abdominal pain. They didn't know anything about this condition, and
Mhm.
so I was stuck inside while all my friends went out for recess. And as I
Mhm.
got older, I went to boarding school for high school from 10th grade until 12th grade, and I spent a lot of time in the health center there.
Mhm.
Ironically, and nothing to do with me, obviously, my last name is Walker, and the health center at my boarding school was called Walker House. Just by happenstance. But I mean, I've had some crazy experiences, with my condition, of things that you can't even imagine. Corneal ulcer. You
Mhm.
woke up. This was at boarding school actually, and I woke up one day, and my eye was just completely puffy. I think it might have been this eye. I can't remember, and it was just swollen, and I had a corneal ulcer. Like I just, inflammation happened, and because of my body, way it reacts to inflammation, it just blew up. So,
Mhm.
I was always kind of like an outcast a little bit, always especially when I was at boarding school, because it's a stress-induced condition and you're away from your family, so that just added to it. And I was always away from friends, and you know, uh, I was always, in bed, and even teachers, like, because growing up, I felt a little older than the average
Mm-hmm.
kid because my parents were older because I was adopted, so they were a little older. And also, I grew up having to be around dignitaries and world leaders, so you had to grow up quick. And so even my teachers, who I considered friends, treated me differently. You get these, oh, you're lying. Why are you always tired? Why, you know,
Mm-hmm.
why, oh, it's all in your head. Go get psychiatric help. That'll help you. Go do natural healing. It's because mind over matter and blah blah. They don't understand, and so I've always felt a little different, a little bit of an outcast.
Did you ever get bullied in school?
I did, yeah. But that that I think more had to do with more to do with my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and people looked at me as a little bit of a diplo brat. I was a son of a U.S. ambassador for a long time, and that was my persona, and so people looked at, and I was always very chummy with adults because I knew how to talk to them, and I was,
Mm-hmm.
a little more mature than the average, 13-year-old say. I had a foreign minister of a country tell me I was very mature for my age, at one point. So because I was so chummy with teachers and adults, I got bullied for those kind of things too. And I think a lot of it did maybe have to do with, thinking back, with my condition and my natural survival instinct of
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to make sure, because I missed a lot of school, how am I going to make sure that my school isn't going to suffer, that my social life is make friends with everybody, talk to everybody. And a lot of kids looked at that as brown nosing, or if I would offer to be, oh yeah, hey, I would do this thing where I grab a bunch of snacks out of our pantry because I was son of a U.S. ambassador. I didn't expect, oh no, you're not paying for that, Dad. And I would take it to school and just hand it out. And I think some people saw that as a little snobby and pretentious. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to be a Robin Hood with snacks, you know. And so I think I think you're right. Looking back on it, possibly part of it was just my psyche being like I have to adapt and survive.
Yeah. And did you ever at any time feel like you were like a burden or anything like that to your family with your condition?
Oh, all the time. My that's it's why I was single for, gosh, almost like 7 years, 8 years, because I always felt like a burden. And even after that, like, the relationship I'm in now is amazing because she understands. She's a nurse. Every other relationship beforehand, I was definitely felt like a burden. My family always made me feel like I was a burden, and part of that was not so much the fact that I was a burden, but it was me feeling bad that I was putting people in situations where I needed help. You know, call it pride, call it good work ethic, call it wanting to you know to not wanting to be quote normal, and not
Mm-hmm.
be sick. Going to work with 102-degree fevers and be like, oh, I'm fine, I'll get through it. And going home and just collapsing, and the house, my apartment, just being a mess, and the dog not being taken care of properly because I have to take care of myself first, and I'm not able to because I just push myself so much. And so then I feel like I'm a burden at work, but a great story of feeling like a burden to your family is my father, who I don't really speak to anymore that much. We're not close, unfortunately. And one example for that is my appendix burst in 2003. And I
Mm-hmm.
was working for my father at the time. And I had to go to the hospital. Well, he couldn't take me because he was in a meeting. So instantly I felt like a burden, because,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, he's got to be at work, I understand. but I'm in the same building, and you get this sense of you don't want to bother with me,
Mm-hmm.
and again, there's no way for me to know if that's the case and that's his mentality without straight up asking him. But what's the point? Why? It's a stressful conversation that doesn't need to be. That if I get an answer I don't like, why put myself through that stress at this point in my life? That's something I've
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot too. Is how to cut stress out of my life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you ever do you ever look back and think that maybe if you had like a counselor or mental health during your child years, would it have helped you to talk to somebody?
I don't.
Or
I
do you
don't know
think
if
that would have helped it, or is
I
that
don't
wouldn't
know if
help
it
you?
would have. Part of the problem was I never had anyone to relate to. You
Mm-hmm.
can't. This isn't a mental issue, and that's part of the
Mm-hmm.
thing that really drives me bonkers about
Mm-hmm.
going. A lot of doctors are like, go talk to a doctor, get mental health help. It'll help you immensely. Sure, okay, it'll make me feel a little better about myself. But then what happens if I'm sitting there on Star Wars Day last year? I'm sitting there streaming, just having a grand old time playing Republic Commando, I'm pretty sure. 45 minutes into my stream, my body just flares out of nowhere for no reason. And there's no mental health help that's going to fix that. My
Mm-hmm.
depression is driven by my DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the first one to admit that I am depressed at
Mm-hmm.
times. And I've been in those dark places. I've been to the edge and back multiple times. Multiple times. It's a dark place, and you never leave. You never fully leave.
What whenever somebody would tell you like, the natural way to do things to heal yourself, what did that make you feel like? What did you want to tell them at the time that you couldn't tell them? That they didn't understand?
There's no amount of karmic energy that is going to put the protein back in my fucking DNA. The only thing that's going to do
Exactly.
that is a medical procedure that can possibly cause leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
There have been trials and they've said that it'll cause leukemia most likely if you get it done. Well, there's my wish of getting cancer and dying instead, right? But really, is it worth the trade-off? And that's the thing. Like I said, there have been times where I've felt that way. I don't anymore. Not right now at this moment in my life, but been there.
Now, after all of this has happened, you've come to terms with it and everything else. What have you learned, or how do you relieve your stress so you don't get there, because you've learned to now manage it to where you're just like, I need to get my stress and everything else. What do you do in your life that, that people can basically, when they do have this condition and they do are they're not only stressing about the actual condition itself, but they're also, not being able to do the things, friends do, not being able to, thinking I can't be in a relationship. You've learned to manage all those stresses that you had in your mind. How do you do that?
Well, for one thing, I'm lucky that I was able to get on disability, and for anybody that has ever tried to get on disability, I know how hard a process that is. I was very lucky, and I got it the first time, so that helps. But at the same time, I mean, as if anyone who's kind of a stay-at-home person knows that that's still a lot of work, especially for someone with my condition. I mean, there's a lot of ways. Video games. Do the things you love. Uh, don't don't feel like you are forced to do anything that you don't want to just because someone else wants to. That's the biggest thing that I think I can say is learn to say I'm sorry I can't come. I'm sorry I can't come do this. Listen to your body. I think there you go. That's it. Listen to your body. I think is the biggest thing because sure, I give myself injections every day. I give myself 2 injections every day to prevent my flares. If I miss those injections, I will most likely get a flare. There is no way to avoid that. I've learned that there's no cure. So I have to just let my body do its thing because life is stressful. I mean, there's no way to cut out all your stress. But if you learn what foods possibly could, now diet's not a huge part of it, but there are foods like spicy foods sometimes can cause your body to stress, Think of it that way. Anything that makes your body stress. But I love spicy food. But sometimes yeah. But sometimes I will pay for it. I have to learn that there are consequences. I'm about to stream for 3 days, 15 hours a day. I know that next week I will probably have one of my flares. However, if I am smart about it, i.e., I keep myself hydrated all weekend, I make sure I take, my shots every day. Don't miss those. Don't get overexcited when we get donations or when we're playing a game even. I remember watching the Euro football soccer tournament for both sides of the pond. And I got excited. And my mother is English, so England is my team. And I got excited when they scored. And I felt flare-ish. So I have to control and temper things. But yeah, listen to your body is definitely the main thing. You have to accept that you're not going to be normal, that you're not a healthy. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I'm not healthy. It is what it is. I'm healthy as I can be, but I'm not healthy. But I know to listen. I know not to go to a party or a movie or a sporting event. But sometimes I don't listen to my body and I pay for it. But I also then understand the consequences too. It's really about managing. There's no cutting it all out, and that's why talking to someone who you can't relate to about it is not going to help me or you. Go on. I recommend going on to Facebook groups, going online, there's support groups online. FMF and AID Global runs support groups on Facebook and online. They do Zoom support groups. Connect with someone who has your condition, who has something similar to you, whether it's FMF, an auto-inflammatory condition like FMF, or something completely different. Being able to relate to someone is so important in the healing process because empathy, I think, is such an amazing healer. Having someone who understands. Because like you asked, what's it like having people that don't understand? It's frustrating. You want to strangle them and shake them sometimes and be like, no, that's not how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Now you said that, growing up, like relationships, kind of were hard to form. What have you learned now, after all this, when those little kids that don't think they're going to have friends or don't think they're going to be in a relationship, what do you tell them? Because even though they might not think it now, they might think it when they're in their teenage years.
Well,
when they go in those dark places, like, I'm never going to find anybody that's going to understand it. So what's your message to them?
Find the right person, definitely, for the relationship side of thing. Forge relationships and learn who people are before you try and go any further in a relationship. And just like in any relationships, you should do that. But sometimes, if you're a healthy person, you just jump into things and it works. But when you're dealing with a condition like this, you jump into something like that and all these unexpected things come at you. It's a lot tougher to cope with when you have an auto-inflammatory condition like familial Mediterranean fever. That being said, the saying, the hashtag, what we call ourselves, FMF warriors, we are designed to push through and cope and deal and adapt and have to learn because our bodies force us to. So I think what I would tell those young kids who are worried about that is just throw caution. Don't throw caution to the wind, and just go talk to people, go meet people, have experiences that are going to help you form relationships rather than trying to force yourself into a relationship. Life experiences, I think, are the most important thing, and learning what you can handle compared to, because that's another thing about especially familial Mediterranean fever is there's so many different mutations, and just because you have the same mutation as someone doesn't mean you're going to have the same manifestation, the same symptoms as that other person. And so really getting to know your limits and your boundaries and what your body can handle, it really goes a long way then in knowing what kind of relationships you can handle as well. But you should never, ever, ever shy away from friendships. Just because you can't have a romantic relationship, especially someone with FMF or a rare condition where sometimes you need that time for yourself to heal. The biggest, with the cliche of you're not ready for a relationship if you don't love yourself yet. And that's one of the hardest things that I had dealing with in my young adult life was accepting myself, accepting the FMF, and accepting that someone could accept me.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Now, whenever you were going in these relationships, did you ever, people often ask, like, what about children? You know, you know, what happens at that point?
You grow up and you see the perfect life that everybody wants, the house, the spouse, the kids, the nice car, the nice job. When you have FMF, you have to cut some of those out for certain reasons. For me, unfortunately, I had to cut out career, and part of it was I wasn't guided along the right path for career. But another one of those is definitely kids. And for me, the reason always has been one, I don't want to risk giving my kid what I have. Two people have to have it, sort of. Like you have to be a carrier. Both parents have to be a carrier. But there could be a partner that I meet that is a carrier unbeknownst to them, and then boom, the child has it, and I didn't want to live with that. Two, the biggest trigger for the flares is stress, and kids are stressful. Puppies are stressful enough.
Testify.
I am
Yes.
good on kids, and that's unfortunately, it's a choice I made. Luckily, I found someone who already had a child and doesn't want kids again, and so it worked out now, but it's funny because for the longest time, I thought I was infertile because of my medicine and because of my condition, all of it combined. Something I've never revealed, I'm not going to reveal the person, only a few people know about this, but I did get someone pregnant. But we had an abortion, and because neither of us, even if I had wanted kids at the time, neither of us were ready. And then as my life went on, that relationship ended. And as I learned more about my condition, I think that is part of it too. Is as I've gained a higher understanding of my condition, which is only, about in the past 10 years, I have realized how I want my path to go, and it was, without kids because of all this information that I've gathered over the past 10 years, starting with when I started on a trial program with the National Institute of Health for the medicine that I'm on, and understanding, always then learning, and going back to school while I was in school, having that mentality of always be learning, even though I wasn't going to school for medicine or medical stuff, or I was going for sport business. You once you have that mentality in your head, it attracts you to other learning experiences, and so I think that my understanding and my new knowledge really, really has changed my perspective on having kids. That's not to say I'm not telling everyone with FMF or auto-inflammatory don't have kids. That's just me because of who I am and my mentality of how I view the world.
And it's okay to do that. You know what I mean? It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all, I don't think. I mean, especially when people have these rare conditions, I think that they need to think what's best for them and not really what social convention tells you or dictates it as, you know, the norm. I absolutely think that. Now, out of all this, did you ever go through a self-destructive phase at all after finding, when it came to yourself?
Multiple times. Wow. I mean, I've had minor cocaine addictions. I've had periods of time where I tripped on acid a lot. I've had pill addictions. I've been through the ringer and back. I've planned my suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I've wanted to plan it again, in the past. Sometimes you plan these things to, as you call it, destroy yourself. But I think for someone with my condition, it's not about pain, causing myself pain, causing myself destruction. It's about ending it, ending the
Mm-hmm.
pain. I mean, so many people, yes, and that's what a lot of people, when they do, commit suicide, say, I'm ending my pain. But I didn't want to do it in a painful way because I already was going through so much pain. That's one thing that always baffled me, was people who wanted to cause themselves pain in order to commit suicide. Like, why, if you're going through all that pain and destruction, and you just, hoping that it ends, why would you cause more pain? So yeah, I've been a cokehead asshole before. I've been the depressed loner who, pushes everybody away. I've been the guy who um, just, mouths off to his boss, and doesn't care because, you just get so angry at the world. And, one of the biggest things that my girlfriend Amber and I say is, if there really is a God, why does he cause so much pain? Like, why does he give people FMF? Why does he put kids through this shit?
And so, does after all of this, Like you went ahead and you pulled yourself out of this. What helped you pull yourself out of it? What helped you made you be like, you know what? Hey, I have this and now I'm going to go ahead and deal with it instead of going through my
Friends,
self-destructive.
family, uh, self-education,
Mm-hmm.
just the will to want to have life experiences still. I mean, it's shit. Life's short enough as it is, right?
Absolutely.
And I've had a good life, but I want to keep living. I want to. There's so much I haven't done. I've got family I've never even met before in Australia. I want to meet. I've got movies I want to see, bands I want to go watch in concert, places I want to go. I mean, just the. And I think none of that would be even an option, though, if I wasn't on disability. If I was still working, I probably would be dead. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's a thought that crosses my mind a lot. If I was still working in my career, I was driving myself to death. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was I had a very good career starting job that was going to take me places, but my health wouldn't allow me. And that was when I was getting again to another dark place. Funny
Mm-hmm.
story is I got so angry one day that and I was crying, and sometimes you just have to cry. And but then I took a lighter, threw it at the TV. TV broke, cracked the TV just from a lighter, and I cried more because I was angry that I broke a TV with a lighter, and I had this stupid health condition. I couldn't work anymore, and I just cried and I cried. And Amber and then we laughed. And then we laughed because I broke a TV with a fucking lighter. Like,
It's those little moments in life that make us be like, I always credit those as just like little moments that basically tell us to like basically say, you know, you got to laugh here and there.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That little moment, even though it happened, it's just like how things just happen in the moment, even it's like a horrible thing. You're like, seriously, but it snapped you out of what you were, the path you were going down of doing that thought process. So that's what it is.
it is. And those are the moments that make you realize that life is worth living.
Mm-hmm.
And and I still have my dark days. I'm not gonna, whether it's dealing with the healthcare system and trying to get medicine, or, you know, playing a video game and getting a flare out of nowhere, not being able to go to a party that you had planned on going to because 2 hours before, all of a sudden you get a flare out of nowhere because you're excited to go to a party. So your body said, "Oh, yep, you're excited. We're gonna raise the stress levels in your body. It's good stress, but we're still gonna cause some inflammation. So sorry, you're not going to that party." But then you have those little moments,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it all worth it.
Cause little the little sparks of light during the
Yeah.
day. Yeah, that's all you have to look forward to. You know, why do you do these charity streams so much? Like why are you that is something that I've seen, and I'll just tell you this, like from the years now that I've known you, I think it's going on 2 years now. I've
Yep.
seen you do like these charities. You have such passion and drive. What drives you to do them? What makes you you're going to you already know what the flare up's going to be next week. You already know what you're going to have to pay for. Why do you continue to do it?
Because I see the stories of these kids, and it's not fair what they have to go through. And I look at them and I say, I didn't have the resources that they could have if someone can help them get those resources. Even if someone was there then to help me get those resources weren't available back then. And so now they are.
Hmm.
I mean, there are children in Chile who can't afford medicine. Money like this helps them. There, like this, part of this money, depending on how much we raise, will go to helping. The first part will help to go helping these kids in the United States have therapy sessions, connect with other kids who have their conditions, connect parents who have kids who have those conditions so that they can learn to cope. My
Hmm.
parents didn't understand. I didn't understand. Nobody knew back then. And so now I have the chance. I'm not working. If I could do a charity stream all year long, I would. But I mean, then it loses its, people start to, will ignore you after a while, unfortunately. That's the way the world works. And so you have to do it in these spurts. And it just works out that every 6 months we got Rare Disease Day. And then we have Auto-Inflammatory Awareness Month and FMF Day in September. And the fact that I've seen some of these parents talk to, the organization after their kids have had these sessions, and just the kids are glowing and they're just doing so much better because we're able to help them. And it's just, I'm so happy that we can. But I wish there was more we could do for the whole world. Every kid that has these conditions, we're going to try and do our best to raise a ton of money, and hopefully some of it can go, to do something to help these poor kids that live with these conditions in Ukraine even. They're trapped
Hmm.
there, no access to medicine. The organization that I work with had just gotten it all worked out, and the government was going to start supplying medicine, and then this. It's so that they can live a better life and not have to go through what I went through in my 20s, so that they can know that they have a chance. Whether it's, resources for medicine and therapy or education so they can understand their condition. This is why I do it, so that I can help them have those resources that I didn't have access to.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that the what do you go through? The what do you go through when it comes to getting your medicine from from the health system here in America?
Well, now it's easy. Now that I've got it all set up, it's simple. It gets shipped to me every month. It's a really cheap copay. I'm on Medicare, so luckily it's easy now. But the whole process of getting it. So I was on a trial program with the National Institute of Health for 8 years, 8 years, with this drug that I'm on, and just last year I finally got my Medicare, and so I was able to start the process. But I mean, I kept getting told that I couldn't get it, that it was going to be out of pocket, that Medicare wasn't going to cover it, that I didn't qualify, or that there was no pharmacy that could supply it, all this stuff. And it shouldn't have been that hard. I should have just been able to pick up a phone, call a company, and say, hey, I have this condition. This is the only medicine that works for me. I need it. Here's
Mhm.
my insurance information. Thank you. It should have been that simple, but instead, I was thinking that I would have to go back on another medicine that caused me pain and suffering as well. That's the thing. Like the medicine that I was on from age 3 until about 35, and from like 31 1 to 35, I was on 2 medicines. But the one that I was on from 3 to 30, it destroyed my life. It was the worst. It was terrible on my stomach. I felt worse sometimes on that medicine than when I would have my flares. And so it was just this rock and a hard place of what to do. Not to mention, I mean, I haven't even brought this up. I have a blood deficiency called G6PD deficiency. Now, I have FMF is an auto-inflammatory condition. This blood deficiency I have prevents me from taking NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, like aspirin, naproxen, ibuprofen. I can't take any of those. I can only take Tylenol. So on top of that, trying to make sure that I have the right medicine because of my other limitations on medicine, again, it shouldn't have been so difficult for me to get medicine that I need for my condition. Now, that being said, at least I could get it, and at least I had a process I could go through. There are kids and adults all over the world who don't have that luxury.
Absolutely. Now, do you think that if, back then, whenever you were going through this, do you think it would have helped your family relationship, organizations like that they are now,
Oh
and,
my
that are
gosh.
available?
Oh yeah. I mean, if we had had an organization that could have educated us, helped us get informed. Now, on the medical side of things, I wouldn't have needed help. I had the best health care as a kid because of my father's job. But no, on the mental health side of things, of being able to understand and cope and being able to connect. Again, it all goes back to connecting with the people you can relate with. And that's what's so big about this organization that they do. And again, social media has a lot to do with that. Back in
Mhm.
the 80s and 90s, there was no social media.
Mhm.
In the 90s, internet was coming around and starting to get big, but my parents weren't getting on boards and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
there was no FMF, message board or BBS, back in the day.
Mhm.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would have been able to connect with kids that I could relate to. My parents would have been able to connect. We would have been able to understand each other a lot better.
Absolutely. And that is, and I want to say that's why it's so important for people to donate this weekend to this charity drive. That way that you guys can go ahead and the funds can contribute to that, to go ahead and build those relationships with those families, especially with the families don't that think that they're alone, and they can go ahead and see that they're not alone. And that's the one thing that you're doing, and that is a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
And I just want to tell you thank you for inviting me in your space. This has been a lovely conversation. And I just hope that everybody donates if you can. $1, it does not matter. Donate because, as Chris has said, it goes to an amazing cause and it helps wonderful children.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, thank you, Stormy, for doing this.
My pleasure, my friend.
I wanted people to really see the real me. And again, I had no idea what you were gonna ask. So I'm glad Kev was like, oh, hopefully she'll ask something about your sex life. Let's thank God she didn't go there. But no,
So,
again, as thank you again. I hope this video, folks, gives you a little bit of understanding of what it's like for someone who has this condition as an adult, who's known about it their whole lives. There are people out there who get diagnosed at age 50 and have been dealing with the symptoms their whole life and just are getting diagnosed. So there's so many sides of the spectrum and the rainbow of patients for familial Mediterranean fever and auto-inflammatory conditions, as well as other rare conditions out there. And that's what February 28th, Rare Disease Day, is all about. Remember, the link for the charity is in the description below to be able to donate for the fundraiser. There is a QR code right above me right here. You can also scan. And we're going to be hanging out all weekend. This is going to be playing in between segments during the weekend. So make sure that you do check it out. Stormy, hope you come hang out during the weekend. We'll
Absolutely.
see you during the weekend. And until then, folks, take care. And we're going back to us being live probably soon. All right. Thanks again, Stormy. And bye, everybody.